Welcome to Grace and Gratitude Podcast, where you'll hear journeys of hope, inspiration, and miracles. Its goal is to help people find their way back to joy through the inspiring stories of our guests who have successfully risen above the challenges of life with a grace-filled and grateful heart. This podcast is sure to add more gratitude, joy, love, and meaning in your life. And now your host, Vebs Dichoso.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grace and Gratitude. I'm your host, Vebs, and today we are blessed to have a very awesome guest from Brisbane, Australia. She's the founder of the Arena Coaching, and she's also a certified Daring Way facilitator, having studied with Dr. Brené Brown.
Yeah.
And let's all welcome this lovely woman, Jennifer Anderson. Hi, Jen.
Hey, Vebs. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I am doing so well, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about this interview, and I'm so excited to hear your story. So let's get it on.
Yeah, absolutely. Where would you like me to start with my story? Because it's a big one.
All right. Probably your journey and the inspiration behind the Arena Coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So how the Arena came to be. So it came to be, I was working actually in corporate on this crazy manic project. It was, I have a history of being in IT and project management. It was like this 4-year project that had been squished down into 9 months. So we were really short-staffed and overworked. You know, I was doing 17 hours a day in 5 different time zones. So if you can kind of imagine all of that craziness, you could probably then also imagine all of the stress that everybody was actually really under. And people were just acting out, and behaviour was just unacceptable and really inappropriate. And the thing is, so was my own. And that was probably the most devastating thing to me, is that, you know, all of this stress and the pressure and everything was getting to me, that I was becoming really ashamed of my own behaviour. And I knew that something had to stop. And so I decided to do some personal development workshops, and I pretty much at the end of the second one, I actually resigned. I had enough. I knew that I couldn't go out anymore, and that really this work and myself were just really incongruent, and I really needed to get my life back in order to be very authentic to who I am. And to actually live my life as who I am as well. So I then decided that I might pursue my passion for interior design. And I thought, well, you know, being from the world of IT, we speak very differently with languaging than what you would speak to an interior design client. And I thought it might be a really great idea if I went and did a coaching course to kind of give me some tips and hints on how to kind of transfer that kind of languaging skill over. And it was about halfway through that coaching course that my master coach that I was working with said to me, I really think it'd be really great if you could listen to a TED Talk on vulnerability by Dr. Brené Brown. And I went, oh, okay, all right. I'm very analytical, so didn't really think much more about it. And literally watched it. I think I fell in a puddle because I never really knew what vulnerability was before. And it was literally from watching that TED Talk, my entire life changed. And I realised that so many people out there are just reacting to life. They're not actually, they don't have the skills or the resilience to actually be able to respond to life. And I really kind of sat down and I thought about it, and I thought, you know, as human beings, we're kind of, we stand tall when the world sort of spins around us. You know, we each have our own individual worlds made up of family and career and friends and experiences and outside influences. And at any given moment, we've always got stuff coming towards us, and we really need to actually be on the ball so we can actually respond to life and not react. So it was sort of all around this sort of point that I actually fell in love with coaching and decided that interior design was just really better for me doing it with myself, as much as I loved it. So I decided to just absolutely go for it and make a difference in the world and really support people to really develop their personal leadership and their emotional resilience so that they can actually respond to life and not react. So that's sort of how the arena came about. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's an amazing story. Imagine from being an IT to turn into become an interior designer, and then all of a sudden it spin around because of this moment you became a coach.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's an amazing story. It's actually, I love stories like this when our roads turn differently the way that we planned.
Yes. I never ever in my life contemplated about being a coach, thought about being a coach in any way, shape or form. And yet when I made the transition, all my girlfriends said, oh, wow, about time. You've been doing this. You've been coaching for a really long time. Probably just haven't realised it. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I have.
Oh, yeah.
So,
It's
yeah.
already within you, the coaching part.
Yeah, very much so.
And it's kind of, you just rediscovered yourself again
Yeah, very much. I
all
got
throughout
really,
this process.
yeah,
Awesome.
very much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talked about personal leadership and emotional resilience. Can you share with us more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we'll start at the top and we'll look at leadership as a whole, and leadership at its whole, we really do think that that's really quite reserved for people that are in corporate roles or perhaps they're in a business role with a certain level of responsibility, and we tend to see those people only as leaders, or they might even be in community roles as well, and we tend to see them as leaders. But in actual fact, when we actually look at the foundation of leadership, what's actually at the heart of that is actually personal leadership. And when we break apart personal leadership, it is literally about being responsible and accountable for yourself. It's about being who you are in each moment. It's being the best of who you can be. And it's about leading yourself in the moment, if that sort of sums all of that up. But in order to lead yourself in the moment so you can respond and not react to things, you need to have a very acute sense of self-awareness of your behaviours, your patterns, your triggers, and things like that. So you can actually then move forward with personal leadership in your life and be able to actually handle all of the challenges or conflicts that are actually coming your way. So if you kind of look at personal leadership with that, you can actually see that personal leadership actually applies to every single individual. It's not necessarily reserved for those people that are actually in leadership roles. But that's how we sort of see leadership, is that it's just for certain people, when in actual fact leadership's actually for everybody, every unique individual. And the emotional resilience that ties in to actually more personal leadership is literally about bouncing back from adversity or any type of negative emotion or experience we might actually be having. So it's having the skills and the tools and the knowledge to be able to, first of all, understand when you've been hooked in by emotion, and then to be able to engage those skills, tools and knowledge to then bounce back and come back into the world and be able to move forward.
Okay, thank you for sharing it. That's amazing. And I like when you've been mentioning about responding and not reacting. I like how you say it, because it's true. As we are human beings, but we forget we are beings because we tend to do a lot and we forget to pause, to have a break. And so I like what you said when you talk about responding instead of reacting. Yeah. And I think there's really a lot to learn about personal leadership and emotional resilience, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, we live such busy lives in today's world, and we also do live in more of a scarcity kind of world to what we did, say, 10 years ago, where it was a bit more, we had a bit more of an abundance outlook on life. It's really turned around. So we've never needed personal leadership and emotional resilience any more than what we actually need it now. And one of the key things to actually look to developing that is to actually slow down and actually pay attention to what's actually going on for you. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
During these interviews, talking to different people, there's this always resonating message of becoming still, to pause, to be aware, to be mindful of the things that's going on around us. Because most of the time we are so distracted. We just tend to do and do and do, and then we forget to pay attention even to the smallest details of our lives. And I totally agree with you when you talk about these breaks, these pauses. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And, when we talk about mindfulness, I really love how Brené describes mindfulness to us, and that is simply, it's just paying attention. It's no more simple and no more complicated than that. It's simply paying attention. So when you slow down your life, you actually do pay attention more. It's a natural occurrence of slowing down. You become more aware of your surroundings and what's going on. You tend to feel things in your body a lot more as well. You tend to understand more about what your taste buds want when you slow down as well. Like, you're more in tune with your body, but also your mind as well. You really do just pay attention a lot more. And from that paying attention, it just becomes so much easier then to respond to life, and also just to engage in being kind as well, and really developing a bit of an attitude for kindness with it all as well, which in this whole busyness of life, it's almost like we've forgotten how to be kind with each other.
So being compassionate, being kind, yeah, it brings us to this truth of who we really are when we slow down.
Yeah.
You mentioned about Dr. Brené Brown, so I wanted to learn more about it. What are your greatest lessons that you learned from her?
Oh my goodness. Just to pick one is so hard. I would definitely say, for me, it would definitely be the paying attention one. That's probably one of the biggest ones I've learned. And to develop a practice of self-compassion. So I've always been somebody that's very hard on myself. And I remember, when I was reading her books, even before I studied with her, and there was an element of self-compassion, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really woohoo to me. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to get this or not. This is going to be a really hard thing to do. But with practice and being kind to myself, which is part of the self-compassion, I've really been able to develop a practice of self-compassion. And I think through that, I've become a lot softer and kinder to myself. And just, I think, even more softer and kinder to everybody else, if that's even possible. So I'm usually a pretty big-hearted person. So, yeah, probably just turning it more inward. Yeah.
Can you share with us at what point in your life did you feel these limitations and weaknesses? And aside from being self-compassionate, what did you do to turn it all around?
Yeah. So I've always been somebody, ever since I was really young, that's been very competitive. So a really big achiever, like I have to achieve. I never had to be the best, but I always had to be up there. And if I never kind of got up there, then I would really put myself down. and run myself into the ground. It'd be really hard. I wouldn't relish just even in the fact that, I'd still achieved something and I'd still done something really well. And so my whole practice in developing self-compassion was really about slowing down, and I started just by talking to myself like I would talk to somebody that I would love, and just practicing kind words with myself. In some of the work that Brené does with Kristen Neff around self-compassion, they talk about self-compassion whispers, which is writing down a list of things that you could say to yourself in times when you needed self-compassion. So it could be something like, this is hard, but you can do hard things, Jen. It's okay to take 10 minutes out and have a cup of tea with yourself, Jen, and always put your name at the end. So whatever it is that how you would talk to somebody that you loved in a moment, when they were having a moment of adversity, then you would write that down and then you'd put your name at the end. And then I actually have a book with all my self-compassion whispers in it, that if I'm having a bit of a tough time or a bit of a struggle, and when we talk about struggle, we talk about experiencing negative emotions. So those negative emotions could be, guilt, they could be a bit of humiliation, you could be embarrassed, you could, feel like you're letting yourself down or letting others down. Then I would merely just go into my self-compassion whispers list and read those out to myself over a cup of tea. Or, I might go and potter around the garden as well. So, yeah, just do things that whatever's going to work for you in that moment, engage in that self-compassion activity and read those self-compassion whispers. They have been really key to me in developing a more kinder, softer, gentler attitude and languaging to myself. Yeah.
Okay, so self-compassion whispers is almost similar to affirmations, as most people know. Are they different?
Not really, they are a little bit different. So affirmations sort of help you motivate yourself to move forward. The self-compassion whispers, look at it as if they're nurturing words that you use to bring you comfort and soothing you in a moment of negative emotional struggle. Does that sort of make sense a little bit better?
Yeah. Actually, just by hearing you talking about it, I feel relaxed. And
yeah. It's absolutely amazing when whether you're talking about self-compassion or you're researching it or you're actually practicing it yourself, you actually do find that your whole body just softens.
Yeah.
Your mind softens, and it's just a really beautiful experience. So in my practice of developing self-compassion, I've become a little addicted to it. I love it so much. And I'm like, wow, why didn't I know about this years ago? Life could be so different, because when we engage in self-compassion, not only can we just turn a moment around, but when we continue to engage in it, we can actually achieve and do really great things with our life. Amazing, absolutely amazing practice. Yeah.
I'm glad you shared it, because it's my first time to hear it. And when you were talking about it, oh my gosh, I feel so relaxed. So aside from those tips, since we're talking about our theme is about grace and gratitude, can you share with us some of your gratitude tips or gratitude habits that you personally do?
Yeah, absolutely. So my big thing with gratitude is to make it your own habit. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to have, you must have a full gratitude list at the end of each day. I tend to look at gratitude as when something happens in the moment, to sit with that and practice the gratitude in the moment when it happens. When I've sort of first started developing my practice of gratitude, I used to find it so much pressure to come up with 5 things that I had to write down every day. And I was like, wow, it's not that I'm not grateful. These things have happened. It's just I can't remember them all because I've had a super busy day. And now I just, they're little things, the gratitude, and sometimes you don't always remember them. So sit with it in the moment and just, absorb all of that gratitude and be incredibly thankful for these things that have happened to you as they happen to you. Don't save them up to experience the gratitude at a later time during the day or even a later date. Give yourself permission to experience that gratitude right here in the moment and really absorb it. Yeah.
I love it. Like relishing this moment, this very moment that we have right now, because this is the only moment that we have this moment, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Jen, based on all the experiences you have had, how do you define grace and gratitude?
To me, grace is what comes when you practice gratitude. You have this amazing presence about you, I believe, from what I feel and experience when I practice my gratitude, when I can sit in there and I relish it all. I become very connected to who I am at my authentic core, and then I really feel that grace just kind of exudes outwards as I go about the rest of my day. So.
Love it. I love when you talk about authenticity. This always comes out in this whole episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, what experience in your life are you most grateful about? I know you do the practice of, you do practice gratitude at the moment. You do this, but what specific point in your life are you really most grateful about?
I think I'm probably most grateful I spent 5 years living abroad in Jakarta in Indonesia, and I think that's probably one of the most grateful times of my life because it just opened my eyes up to how amazing the world really is and how resilient people really are and actually can be. I see Indonesia as one of my homes in the world, and it's always going to have a really special place in my heart.
Wow, thank you for sharing it. Now, this is the question I wanted to know. If people would remember Jennifer Anderson, how would you like to be remembered?
I think I would like to be remembered as somebody who is incredibly resilient, and no matter what, she always moves forward with life and lives at every moment of it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing it. And of course, if you can leave a message to someone who's going through something right now, and to those who want to add more gratitude, joy, love, and meaning in their lives, what's your one big message?
So my big one message is don't be in a hurry, to take each moment as it comes, and that life is a journey, it's not a destination. So slow down and enjoy every moment of it. Relish in your gratitude when it shows up in your life, and enjoy being who you really are. So we don't do that enough either. And just take it moment by moment.
Love it. I love talking to you.
I've enjoyed talking to you too, babes.
Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
I think think you have an amazing audience. I think the work that you're doing is incredible, spreading this, amazing word of gratitude and grace. And I just think, for your listeners that are out there, just where you can relish that gratitude, just stay with it. Feel the joy that comes up out of it as well. Lean into it and really feel it. And every time you do that, life is just going to become even more richer.
Thank you. That's so wonderful. Everything you shared. Oh my gosh, I have a long list of notes and I just felt so good today. Thank you for everything you shared. I learned a lot and I'm sure our listeners do also. Now, if people would like to know more about you, how can they find you and reach you?
So they can find me at the website, which is www.thearenacoaching.com. And from there, all of the links to social media are on there. So look for the lovely little icons. If you've got any questions, definitely send through an email. I'm only too happy to answer and respond. And that email address is info at thearenacoaching.com.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this brief moment that you shared with me, that you shared with us. Thank you for your message. Thank you for sharing your stories and your tips. Really, Jenn, it's a grace to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vance. It's been my absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
Thank you for listening to Grace and Gratitude. There's more to explore on our website, www.gratefullandjoyfulsoul.com. Also, please help us share this message with your family and friends and leave us a review on iTunes. We're so grateful to have you on this journey.